Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us for this grassroots organizing call tonight. We're grateful to have so many people who want to learn about how to get involved and how you can start organizing in your own communities. My name is Shelby Wiltz, and I'm the National Political Director at the DNC, and it's my honor to kick us off this evening. We organize this call because we refuse to accept what's happening on the ground in Minnesota. All of us want to protect our communities, push back against the harm that's being done, and demand accountability for those responsible for wreaking this chaos and violence. That's why tonight we're bringing together leading Democrats and community members to talk about how you can help in Minnesota, no matter where you are, and again, how you can start organizing right where you live. To get us started, it's my pleasure to introduce someone who was in Minnesota yesterday, providing food to organizations and visiting the memorials for Renee Good and Alex Preddy. He has led campaigns, he has led the Minnesota DFL, and he is personally invested in the lives of Minnesotans, many of whom are his neighbors and friends. I'm proud to introduce the chair of the DNC, Ken Martin.
Thank you so much, Shelby, and good evening, friends. Thank you for being here with us tonight. The reason we're hosting this call is very simple. While this outrage is happening to our state, it is rippling across the entire nation. So it's time for all of us to organize right now. And here's the first step for you to get involved. I want you to text ACT, A-C-T, to 43367. And we're going to get you set up to help us. It's more important than ever right now. But I want to reflect a moment, because yesterday I traveled to my home state to pay my respects to the two Minnesotans who were shot and killed by masked federal agents. I showed up in person to say enough and to support the incredible individuals and organizations who are out there on the front line supporting our community. Now, I wish with everything in me that we were not having this conversation under these circumstances. I wish that Minnesota were not once again at the center of national pain and grief. But we are here because we must be, because silence is not an option, and because our communities deserve to be seen, heard, and defended. And I want to begin by saying this plainly. Minnesota is being targeted. And it is being targeted precisely because it stands as a living, breathing contradiction to Donald Trump's racist, exclusion-first vision for this country. Minnesota represents the very best of America, a multiracial democracy where people from every background build their lives together. A place where neighbors look out for one another, coworkers, friends, strangers, not because it's politically convenient, but because it's who we are. A state that's rooted in the belief that everyone belongs, that dignity is not conditional, and that your humanity does not depend on where you were born, the language you speak, or the papers you carry. That inclusive, welcoming vision is a threat to Trumpism, and that is why Minnesota is in his crosshairs. But what Minnesota is enduring right now is not abstract. This is not theoretical. This is real. It's compounding trauma. And as someone who was born and raised there, I need to say this with honesty and heartbreak. My home state is hurting deeply. In just the past year alone, Minnesota has experienced an almost unbearable amount of loss. We are still mourning the assassination of my dear friend, Speaker Melissa Hortman, a public servant who loved this state with her whole heart and who believed fiercely in democracy, and devoted her life to making Minnesota more just and more humane. Her loss left a hole that has not healed. We are still carrying the trauma of the shooting at Annunciation, another moment of senseless violence that shattered families in our faith community and reminded us once again how fragile life can be. And now we are grieving the killing of two innocent people, Renee Good and Alex Preddy, murdered in cold blood for doing what Minnesotans have always done, which is standing up for their neighbors. They were trying to help people who were being harassed, bullied, and terrorized by ICE. They were showing compassion. They were acting out of love. And for that, they were killed. There are no words that can fully capture the weight of that reality. 2 lives stolen, 2 families devastated, a community left asking how and why this keeps happening. And all of this pain is reopening wounds that never truly closed. Minneapolis and the Twin Cities have not fully healed from the murder of George Floyd nearly 6 years ago. The world watched in horror and in disbelief as George Floyd was murdered in the street by someone sworn to protect him. That moment changed Minnesota forever. It changed America forever. And it carved grief and rage and trauma deep into our collective memory. So when people who are supposed to protect our communities once again kill innocent people in plain view, it doesn't just shock us. It brings back that same sickening feeling, that same fear, the same question, which is how many times must we witness this? How many times must we, how many names must we say? How many lives must be lost before humanity is honored and justice is real? Look, as a Minnesotan, I feel an overwhelming sadness that my state keeps being asked to carry this burden, that our communities keep being tested by violence and cruelty. And I feel anger, righteous anger, that political leaders would rather exploit fear and division than protect people and uphold the most basic standards of decency. But I also want to be very clear about something else tonight. Donald Trump has overplayed his hand. The American people are watching federal power used to bully communities, watching innocent people die, watching fear wielded as a political weapon. And across this country, people are recognizing this for what it is, a dangerous abuse of power that threatens all of us. But Minnesota has shown everyone how to respond. Even in this grief, even in this sadness, Minnesota is showing this country and the world how to stand up, how to resist, how to refuse to be broken. Minnesotans are organizing. They are protecting one another. They are demanding accountability, and they are choosing courage over fear, love over hate, solidarity over silence. Even as they mourn, they are working because they know that what is happening is wrong and because they believe that something better is possible. There's a phrase many of us grew up hearing, words that have taken on new meaning in moments like this. When things feel overwhelming, when the world feels frightened, we're told to find the helpers because there are always helpers. Renee Good was a helper. Alex Preddy was a helper. They stepped in when others were being harassed and they chose humanity. They showed us who we are called to be. So tonight and in the days ahead, let this be our charge. Let this be our calling. Be good and be pretty. Be the kind of people who show up. Be the kind of neighbors who protect one another. Be the kind of country that refuses to accept cruelty as normal. Tonight, we all stand with Minnesota, with the families who are grieving, with the communities, not just in Minnesota, but throughout this nation that are traumatized and exhausted, but still fighting. With everyone who believes that our democracy must be inclusive, that our government must serve the people, and that no one should ever be killed for caring about their neighbor. Minnesota has endured so much, and it should not have to endure this alone. So thank you for being here. Thank you for standing with us, and thank you for choosing every day to be helpers. One final thing. People ask me all the time, well, what are Democrats doing to fight back? Democrats aren't looking away or backing down from this fight. In the Senate, Democrats are refusing to support the DHS funding bill without significant changes to rein in ICE abuses. And in the House, Democrats are demanding that Kristi Noem be immediately fired. And if the president refuses, then we will back up our words with impeachment proceedings. That's what Democrats are doing in Washington. But so many around the country are asking this, what can we do to help right now? And for those of you on this call who want to support organizations on the ground in Minnesota and organize to stop this siege of my state, again, text ACT, ACT to 43367, and we will link you to those organizations. Now, look, I hope you listen to and support the work of my good friends that I've invited to be on this call tonight. All of them are on the front lines right now of standing up and fighting for communities in Minnesota and throughout this nation. Folks who I have worked with over the years in Minnesota in community. Folks who are stepping up once again to provide support, to provide mutual aid, to comfort targeted communities, and to be helpers. And now it's my pleasure to introduce my great friend, Minnesota's Attorney General Keith Ellison, who, as you remember, was the first Attorney General in the country to successfully secure a conviction against a police officer who murdered an innocent civilian. He's the co-chair of the Democratic Attorney Generals Association and a very close partner of mine for over 20 years in fighting for economic and social justice in Minnesota. Keith, take it away.
Thank you, Ken. Ken, thank you so much, and thank you for convening us. You're leading from the front, which is exactly what we need. Let me point out the obvious, friends. ICE is here in Minnesota as a result of an election. ICE is here because of an election. Trump is defaming the precious memory of Renee Good and Alex Preddy because he was elected to the president for a second time. We are here facing this fundamental attack because of Operation Metro Surge, which Trump promised to do because of an election. I say this to you because I have had a few conversations, and maybe you have too, with good people who are absolutely passionate and want to do the right thing, who have said to me things like, I don't want to hear from none of these politicians until we get ICE out of Minnesota. And I'm like, I hear you, but remember how ICE got to Minnesota in this kind of Operation Metro Surge. What's my point? Absolutely, we need you to march. Absolutely, we need you to write letters to members of Congress to stop this $10 billion and to demand that new strictures and protocols and requirements be put on ICE, to put some real corrals and guardrails around ICE. There's a bill coming up like tomorrow, and we need your help to communicate with Congress on how you feel about that. We need you to keep doing your own podcast. We need you to do we need you to write songs. Like, you know, we're seeing our artistic community really, really stepping up. Bruce Springsteen came up with a beautiful song. Jeremy Messerschmidt is doing his thing. I've seen poets. I've seen a lot of the artistic community is coming through so well. But friends, we got to win an election big time. We have to have a voter turnout bigger than we have ever seen. An election which wipes these people out of power and sends a message to Trump that we don't want any of your stuff, that Trumpism has failed, that the cultural revolution you're trying to push of racism, sexism, exclusion, anti-immigrantism, xenophobia, homophobia, all this stuff, greed, anti-unionism, we reject it entirely. This message will be most effectively sent if in January, February, March, April, May, throughout the summer and well into the fall, that you are organizing voters every single day. Don't tell people that an election is some sort of magic thing that's going to solve every problem. It won't. We still need people to knock door, but I mean, to protest. We need people to litigate. We need people to do all that. But I'm telling you now, friends, we need the gavels so we can start impeachment proceedings. We need to change. We need to take this fight on all fronts. And one of the most important things you all can do is do election protection to make sure that they don't steal the elections. Some of y'all may have seen what happened in Georgia today. The Fulton County was raided by the FBI to try to interfere with their elections. This is deeply disturbing, and it should be a notice to you that these bad guys are already thinking about the election. If we're not, they are. I am telling you, for I hope somebody puts into the chat what happened in Fulton County, Georgia today. Very important. It is critical.
There you are. That's
that
perfect.
We know this. And so
you're looking better though. I mean, what?
The search warrant the FBI served at the elections office is just the opening salvo. Or maybe it was the second salvo, because Pam Bondi's letter to Tim Walz saying, we'll stop all of our hateful disruption of your state if you just give us your voting rolls, which we're never going to give them. So I'm going to wrap up my comments right there because we got so many other excellent people to hear from, but you can count on me to sue the Trump administration. We've done it well over 51 times. We're suing them now over Operation Metro Surge, and the court told the government to supplement their briefs to explain how in the world that the motivation of the federal government is not to punish and intimidate Minnesota. We're suing them to protect. We're suing them to get the information and to have a fair investigation on both Alex Preddy and Renee Good. We're moving forward on those fronts. and we're doing all the other things that we're supposed to do. Right now, I'm going to stop talking to you. But friends, don't get sleeping on this election. The time to think about election is now. The time to recruit voters is now. The time to do election protection is now. So please think about it. One thing you can do is go get 20 new voters every week until November election day. Think about the change that would make in the moment we're in right now. So my good friend Ken Martin, I'm going to hand it back to you, brother, but bless you and God keep you. And we are in the fight together.
Thank you so much, Attorney General Ellison, for your leadership and your unwavering commitment to accountability and justice for Minnesota communities. Your voice really matters deeply at this moment. And it's now my pleasure to bring in someone who was with Ken yesterday on the ground in Minnesota and continues leading this fight every day, Minnesota DFL Chair Richard Carlbaum.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for gathering tonight to talk about what we're facing in Minnesota. I want to start by saying to Chair Martin, it was great to welcome you back to Minnesota yesterday. It was great to have you give some words of encouragement to our staff who feel this federal siege we are under and are doing work on the ground each and every day to protect our neighbors, engage with mutual aid, and do everything we can to be constitutional observers. I want to say to folks around the country tonight that what Minnesota is experiencing right now is a retribution campaign from Donald Trump on the citizens of Minnesota. Retribution is not my word. President Trump tweeted 2 weeks ago that Minnesota retribution reckoning is coming. The retribution campaign on Minnesota started months ago. It started with federal cuts to funding that families in Minnesota rely on to eat and to provide childcare for their kids and housing for their families. It continued with President Trump tweeting and retweeting and posting misinformation about the assassination of Speaker Melissa Hortman. Horrible, horrible misinformation that is damaging and destructing to her family, her colleagues, and all of Minnesota. It elevated with Operation Metro Surge to deadly levels with the killing of Renee Good and Alex Pretty. President Trump is targeting Minnesota with this retribution campaign simply because we voted against him 3 times in 2016, in 2020, and 2024. Minnesota always voted against him. And he's really mad about that. He sits in the Oval Office and tells people that he actually won Minnesota 3 times, but voter fraud prevented the truth to come out. All those are lies. We in Minnesota are doing everything we can to stand with our neighbors, to protect them, and to be in community. Here at the DFL, we have trained over 8,000 constitutional observers to be out there with their cameras, recording in order to make sure the American people can see with their own eyes how ICE is systematically violating the law and violating the constitutional rights of American citizens. I want to tell you right now that Donald Trump said, first Minnesota, then the rest of the country. What does he mean by that? He is testing how far ICE agents can violate the law and constitutional rights of the people of Minnesota before we bend to him. We're not bending. We're resisting. We are organizing and we're standing strong. I want to say a special thank you to Attorney General Keith Ellison, who was in court twice this week, defending the constitutional rights of Minnesotans. In addition, he and lawyers from the state were in court trying to make sure that independent investigations done by the state of Minnesota can be conducted into the deaths of both Renee Good and Alex Pretty. I wake up almost every single day saying, thank goodness, thank God for Attorney General Keith Ellison. Lastly, I just want to say there are lots of organizations, boots on the ground, in community, doing the mutual aid work that supports our neighbors, making sure that even more people are trained to be constitutional observers. We are delivering food to homes. We are organizing to make sure that people have financial support when they can't leave the house to go to work. Ultimately, the answer to this problem is November of 2026. Donald Trump recently told the New York Times, the only check on his power, the only limit on his power is his own morality. Well, we know that's not true. The Constitution of the United States of America is the ultimate limit on his power, but we need a Congress willing to actually provide that limit. In Minnesota, we have 4 Republican members of Congress all of whom have abdicated any responsibility of oversight and instead lets Donald Trump and his administration do whatever they want to Minnesota. So in the midst of this retribution campaign, I have one ask for you. Contact your member of Congress and demand that they put a check on the Department of Homeland Security, that they put limits and demand that ICE follow the law and respect the constitutional rights of American citizens. Because it started in Minnesota with Operation Metro Surge and ICE testing the ground for how far they can go. Well, they're in Maine now. They're going to go back to Chicago. They were in Los Angeles. We have to stand strong. We have to stand united, and we must resist every step of the way. Thank you for being here tonight, and please be prepared to act.
Thank you so much, Chair Carlbaum, for highlighting your work. We are all seeing the videos of Democrats in Minnesota organizing, mobilizing, refusing to back down, and that work is strengthened by your efforts. As a reminder to everyone on the call, if you want to know how to get involved with folks who are actually on the ground doing the work in Minnesota, or how to start working in your own community, go ahead and text the word ACT, that's ACT, to 43367. ACT to 43367. Okay, joining us next is someone who knows Minnesota well and has served as the Chief Resilience Officer for the city of Minneapolis. Please welcome DNC member and Midwest Caucus Chair, Ron Harris.
Thanks so much, Shelby. Look, y'all, I just want to start by saying something super important. And Keith said it, Richard said it, Ken said it as well, which is our state is being targeted on purpose. Minnesota keeps voting blue in presidential elections. Donald Trump personally hates Ilhan Omar. He hates Tim Walz. He's won other Midwestern states around us, and he's been openly claiming that he won Minnesota in 2024. He did not. I ran the campaign here. We know exactly what happened. But what's more important than any one election is that Minnesota represents a symbol that we are a state where progressive policies actually work. Good governance, strong education, strong health outcomes, a place that's really good for business, that's also really good for workers, a place that has certainly been, at least in our efforts, welcoming to immigrants. And that story and that symbol is exactly what they're trying to disrupt. Donald Trump and his folks understand symbolism better, probably better than any politician that I've ever seen. And they are trying to make an example out of Minnesota to show what happens when a state dares to live its values out loud, dares to be progressive, dares to be front-facing and bold about what we believe and what we care about. The good news, and this really matters, it's hard to see and feel good news right now, is that they would not be deploying this many resources if they would not be deploying this many resources or going to these lengths if the resistance here wasn't working. And that pressure that we're facing is a direct response to how effective we've actually been. We've been effective in large part because what you're seeing in Minnesota right now is the product of a decentralized movement. There's no single headquarters running things. There's no single one person in charge. There's a lot of organizations, of course, but it is decentralized. These are neighbors just doing what they can. These are clergy members and faith leaders who are stepping up and showing up, and you hear more about that a little bit later on the call. These are workers and students and parents and elders and folks just fed up and just stepping up and contributing whatever they have to the moment. The other piece of this is that we're not starting from scratch either. We Minnesotans have a muscle memory, especially from the tragic murder of George Floyd in May of 2020. We remember how to show up, and we remember how to organize, and we remember how to care for each other while also holding the line. So what you're seeing today is a result actually of muscle memory, of infrastructure that was built years ago by a lot of people on this call, making sure that people knew the power that they had to contribute. The other piece of good news is that we're not doing this by ourselves. There are people all over the country, you all on this call, and frankly, I've heard from colleagues around the world who are sending strength, they're sending resources, they're sending solidarity, attention, amplification. And to you all, what I want to say is that support is not just symbolic. That support is actually sustaining me on the ground, sustaining other people on the ground. When I see videos from Boston or Maine or Chicago or any other city talking about how Minnesota is actually teaching folks how to be brave, I tear up thinking about that. But when we see those things, it gives us energy and it gives us what we need to sustain ourselves. So here's what folks can do who are outside of Minnesota. And you'll hear folks on the call probably say the same thing. A resource that I use that has been going around pretty viral that was built by an old organizer friend who was in the trenches with all of us back in the day, standwithminnesota.com. They have literally so many great resources, so many places where you can plug in. What you should really look on there in terms of what I think is most important is supporting mutual aid and community funds. Their families who need rent support, food support, legal help, emergency assistance. That stuff matters right now, and you can make a difference right away. You can also help amplify the local voices in Minnesota. We have independent journalists, independent creators, some of the organizations taking the lead on this work. Amplify their stuff. Don't necessarily amplify what the national pundits are speculating. I promise you, what you see online, what we're experiencing is in many ways worse. And so make sure you amplify what's happening locally. Organize solidarity where you are. Organize your vigils and your rallies. Put together statements and make sure you share those things. Put pressure on your elected officials, right, to not vote for increased funding or to not vote for some of the things that have perpetuated this moment. When we see that here in Minnesota, it literally gives us strength on the ground. The fourth and final piece is, prepare your own communities. Build relationships now. Start connecting with people now. Start setting up mutual aid networks now. Start doing know your rights trainings and legal observer trainings now. Create those communication trees now. Get those group chats figured out now. You got to get ready because he's trying to use us as a model. But here's the beauty of that preparation. If you do that, if nothing happens where you live, you still didn't waste your time. You've actually built a stronger community anyway. So the other piece of this is that you have every single thing that you need to contribute. We meet a lot of people who are like, oh, I haven't trained this, or I haven't learned this, or this is my first time. Perfect. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need to have the perfect language. You just have to give a damn. Because what you're seeing right now in Minnesota is people just giving a damn about each other. And for the communities that will experience some version of this, how you respond to this moment really matters. But how you recover from this matters just as much. The way that we care for each other in these moments is actually building the infrastructure and setting the tone for the world that we get to build in recovery. So make sure that you are not just resisting harm. Make sure that you are modeling what a different civic culture could look like under pressure. And right now you're seeing the best of Minnesota under pressure with the help from people like you. So thank you for standing with us. Thanks for joining this call. And we'll see you out there. Thanks so much.
Ron, thank you so much for your remarks. Your work really shows what it looks like to lead with values and to deliver from Minnesotans. Community voices are essential to this fight, and no one represents them better than our next speaker. I'm honored to introduce Nimco Ahmed, board chair of the Somali American Coalition.
Hi, everyone. It is amazing to be here with some of the people that I love the most. I have never been more proud of being a Minnesotan and being a Somali American Muslim woman. And this is a time of testing, like we are being tested in terms of like, what are we able to do? And Minnesota really came out. We showed, not did we only come out, but we really showed out. And I want to thank all the members that have actually worked on all of those work that are actually on this call as well. And all the faith leaders, all the allies. I just can't thank enough being a Somali Minnesotan. But more than anything, I mean, what's at stake here is who we are and what we have built, our shared values. And in order for us to actually protect our shared values, the only way to do it is showing up and making sure that next Tuesday during our caucuses that we come up in large numbers. I have been training our people every week since this has started because I knew it was never about ICE never came for illegal immigrants. They never came for criminal offenders. They came for us. They came for what we have built here in Minnesota. And that is what's at stake today. So next Tuesday, the plan is to come out and to show what we can do for Renee and Alex because they died for us. Those neighbors of ours, the only way that we can show them the love that we have for them is protect what they wanted to protect. And that is what we can do next Tuesday. In terms of like, I just want to highlight some of the things that we have been seeing here right on the ground. Like, I want to share two stories that really touched me in the last week that, Wantana and I worked on. particularly one family. These families all came during the Biden administration. The Biden administration was not in a different continent or in a different country. Joe Biden, our former president, served this country, and the people that came to this country as refugees have the right and the legal status to stay in this country. So one of the family members, I remember Montana reaching out to me. There were 11 members of that family, 6 of them were blind. I reached out and knocked their door. They didn't open. Later, they received a letter to come to an appointment. Mind you, these families are already tested in terms of coming to a new country, learning new language, new system, and everything in between, and also dealing with 6 members of their kids who are actually disabled. So mind you that they were already scared. They finally thought they came to a country that they were hoping to build their life, and all of a sudden now they are stuck at home. They aren't able to leave. The kids are not going to school. They can't even get grocery shopping. And they are legal. They are legal in this country. The next family is even more serious and more scary. A 62-year-old woman, ICE came to her house. She didn't open the door. Later, she received a letter. She went to her appointment. She was detained. She had a medical emergency where she ended up in coma in the hospital. When they took her to the hospital, they changed her name so no one finds her. When we actually find out that she was in the hospital and we went to the hospital, we were told that she was nowhere to be found and we were trespassed. This is the kind of administration we're dealing with. They are attacking the most vulnerable members of our community. The only way to show them the power that we have is the unity that we have showed already right here in Minnesota. And we will show it again on Tuesday. We will come in large number, no matter what the weather will be. You have seen us last Friday, how we came out. We shut down the state, and we will do it again until ICE is out of our state, and we will actually win every part of the state again. And we want to send all of our brothers and sisters across this country to do the same. Nobody is going to touch us, because at the end of the day, the only thing that we have is each other and to protect what we have built for so long. People died for the rights that we have today that we cherish, and best believe many of us will die for it, to make sure that we are protecting the most vulnerable members of our neighbors. And it doesn't, with any cost, we'll do it. The way Renee did it, the way Alex did it, I'll put my life on the line too. If you didn't think this pisses me off, watch it. Watch it and see us next Tuesday. We will come in the largest numbers that you have never seen before. Yes, there might be a reason why we are targeted. Yes, our state used to be, let me remind you this, used to be a swing state. It's not. Our flag remains blue, and it will be, because that is the protection that we have. The chair, Ken Martin, this is the state that he built. This is the state that he swung to be blue, and we're going to remain it with our new chair and everyone that we have on this call, because we know how to do it. We have done it before, and we're going to do it again. We ain't scared. We ain't bowing down to nobody. Thank you so much. Stay strong. We have each other at the end of the day. And like my imam said, we're not garbage. We are gorgeous. Look at this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nimco, for sharing the power of grassroots organizing and the urgency of this moment with all of us. Folks on the call, we have 2 more incredible speakers before we wrap tonight. I want you to hang with us and hear from these powerful leaders. We're now joined by a leader who really brings moral clarity and the strength of her faith to this work. Please welcome Minister Janae Bates Amari.
All right, greetings, beloved community of sisters, brothers, siblings, saints of justice, and those who seek mercy. We have felt the weight of history pressing on our hearts and in our streets. The federal government has unleashed a militarized surge of immigration enforcement agents, Right here in Minnesota, thousands of armed forces moving through our neighborhoods to terrorize not only our undocumented neighbors, but every Minnesota family, to frighten, harass, and dangerously disrupt the fabric of our community life right here. And we have paid the ultimate cost. The murder of Renee Nicole Good, a mother and legal observer, Alex Eddy, a nurse and caregiver, shot and killed by federal agents in the broad daylight during the most aggressive, expansive, and violent operation in this country's history. These losses and the continued, I want to say continued, because some may think that because of the changing of guards around here, that we have less violence. And I will tell you, just a few moments ago, I just got notification about a kidnapping by ICE right a few blocks from me. And so it is the current violence at the hands of ICE that is happening even today, that is ripping through the homes, ripping through churches, through classrooms, and through every heartbeat that beats for justice. And so, in response, Minnesotans, we do what we have always done, what we do best. We confronted that power, that violent power that operates without humanity, showed up, and we continue to show up. We trained a caucus. We march by the tens of thousands in Arctic temperatures. We sing, we hold vigils, we light candles on cold nights. We witnessed 97 clergy members arrested while in prayer for the soul of our nation. We organize parent patrols, grocery runs, whistle brigades. We turn every phone into a witness for courage. We reject attempts to hold our lives ransom in exchange for our voter data. We stand shoulder to shoulder because we know that no single person is free until we are all free. And so let me say this, our witness cannot be a whisper. The violence, the chaos, the cruelty that has been justified in the name of enforcement must be met with accountability and with action. And so tonight I call on you to call your senator, Republican or Democrat. They need to stand with us, not with the cruelty, but with conscience, to vote to defund every single dollar that props up this mass militia, that every dollar that enables murder and disorder in our streets and terror in our communities must end, that we will not finance hatred with our tax dollars. We will not allow violence to be legitimized by legislation. And to every heart listening, this moment is not just about one leader or one city or one state. This is about the collective we, the collective courage that topples tyranny. It is our collective voice that wakes up the conscience of the nation. It is our collective refusal to be silent that will change history. And so let Minnesota be a living sermon, that in the face of cruelty, we do not shrink back, that in the face of fear, we rise up. In the face of injustice, we love our neighbors fiercely. We will continue to pray and march. We will continue to organize, vote. We will continue to lift up one another in mercy and in power, and let this be our charge. When democracy is threatened, the church, our homes, our workplaces, our schools, our businesses become a fortress of hope, and the people become architects of justice. May it be so. Amen.
Thank you, Minister, for your powerful words. To close us out on tonight's speakers, we're joined by a leader who brings over a decade of experience advancing civil rights and fighting for justice across Minnesota and beyond. Please welcome Wintana Melican, local organizer and founder of Groundwork Institute.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Like they shared, my name is Wintana, and I'm the executive director of Groundwork Institute and Groundwork Action. Just to kind of share what's happening, I'm a voting rights person. That's my jam, public policy and all of those good things. A big part of my job is spending my time developing leaders to become champions for democracy. And then on Thanksgiving Day, I saw a tweet from our president that completely rocked me. Since that day, I have been living in pure anxiety and have only watched the consequences get worse and worse and worse as time has moved on. I think about a very specific moment that has completely rewired my brain. Very active person in my community. And one night I was just at my house. It was a Sunday morning around 10 a.m. and a school board member called me and said, hey, ICE just picked someone up nearby your house. Would you be okay if I gave them your phone number? And I said, oh yeah, of course, absolutely. 2 minutes later, my cousin called me. ICE was actually at my family church. They picked up another one of my relatives. I immediately got on my car and I drove to the scene and I did what I could. My cousin, who was born a US citizen, was picked up by ICE and detained for hours. She told them repeatedly she was a citizen. We had her documentation and she was held. This was at a place of faith. This was at a place of worship. She was right in front of the building, about to walk in right before service began. Since then, we have heard hundreds of stories like this. Regardless of your status, you are picked up, you are detained, you are held, you are denied the rights that you are given in the Constitution, and it has become the standard life for Minnesotans. I had a friend call me because he was sleeping on the ground of someone else's home because he takes children to school every day in a family that was afraid to leave their house. And one day when he brought those kids home, the parents weren't there. He called and he called, they didn't answer. They never came back. Those kids are now with a new family. Another friend told me a story about how he was trying to help a family that was abducted figure out what they were going to do with their pets now that they were no longer in the country. So I went from solving problems around how do we expand voting rights to all, how do we, solve these problems around improving democracy, to just helping everyday Americans survive this structure. The neighborhood I grew up in had a tank drive through it, not a tank, like a military truck with NOM, standing in front of it. ICE was just a few blocks away from my office, just 2 days ago. This is just everyday life for Minnesotans. While we are walking around, just trying to go to the grocery store, we carry our passports. Everything you're seeing online is probably 10 times worse in person. And so we just continue to ask everyone to, look out for us, support us, give. But really the big ask is for you to start organizing in your own town. Minnesota is not the target. Minnesota is just one of the first. And we have to do everything we can to protect our democracy. We have to do everything that we can to protect our neighbors. The attack that is occurring on Minnesota is because in Minnesota, we don't see welfare as a slur. We see it as a helping hand. We believe our culture here is to protect our neighbors, to protect democracy. We see supporting each other as our duty. And that is why we are being targeted. That is why they are coming after us. And we will not be giving up that value. We will not be letting go of our neighbors. We will be defending them until the very end. And we will continue to do what we need to do to protect our democracy, to protect our state, and to protect the country. And so I encourage you to continue to look out for Minnesota, but also start to think about how you can look out for your own neighbor, because this will only expand. And we have to continue to be building with each other so that we can build the safety net that everyone deserves and do the work that needs to get done. And thank you.
Thank you, Wintana, for your words and for your work in this challenging and painful time. It is the voices of the people on this call, the folks who are on the ground doing the work every day, and all of you who have joined us and are rallying to make a difference that gives all of us hope. We can create change when our voices come together and when we support each and every person as though they were our own neighbor. Thank you to all of our speakers. Thank you to everybody on this call that took the time to join us tonight. We hope that you continue to stay involved and to take action to fight back against what's happening in Minnesota and across the country. One final time to stay involved with our organizing efforts, please text ACT, A-C-T, to 43367. That's ACT to 43367. And there you can receive resources on how you can support organizations on the ground to protect your community. Once again, ACT to 43367. We hope you have a great rest of your night. Stay safe, everyone.